All right, I think we're all here. I am delighted to see you all. Tima, how are you? Good. I can't hear you, but I can read your lips. And you're saying you're good.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. All right, guys. So, as I said, we are going to stick to English today because we have a guest here. So, here is what we're going to do today. It's a very exciting lesson, and I can't wait to share with you. We are going to interview our amazing guest, who is an author, and I'm going to introduce him shortly. And he will be bringing his work to a big screen, Tima, what you are planning to do. Tima is dreaming to become an author too, and he also wants to film his movies. So Tima is going to learn a lot today. I'm very excited. Now, here is what we're going to do. First, I'm going to introduce our new friend. Then I'm going to model a few questions, how we're going to ask them, okay? And then after that, I'm going to open the floor for the questions. And what's important about these questions? You're not just asking them for your own personal interest. Not only that, well, of course, we're interested in our guests, but you are asking them as reporters, right? As journalists. So we have to remember everything that we learned in class when we're asking questions, right? We're going to go over it right before we open the floor for the questions. We're going to remember. But what's our number one rule when somebody's talking? Yes, ma'am.
Listen to them.
We listen and we don't interrupt, right? And we don't try to...
We're not interrupting chickens.
Okay. And we are not bringing ourselves up all the time, right? It's all about the speaker. It's all about the guest, right? What else do we do?
That's right.
What else do we do? What else do we remember from our lessons?
Evan?
Yes, Vin.
A lot of stuff actually.
Good.
You're not allowed to say you want to say open-ended questions. Like, and you need to have like ending and starting. Can't just start asking questions and stuff like that.
Right.
You need to compliment the other person to make him like not mad.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to add? Vanya, what do you have to add? Hi, Igor. Vanya, what do you want to add?
I don't know.
Great. What have we learned? You only haven't seen me for 2 weeks.
We have learned that we need to like speak properly and we need to use our etiquette.
Yes, absolutely. And what else? Very important. Very important.
We also need like enthusiasm.
Yes, we're enthusiastic when we ask questions. Yes, we're excited about our speakers. You got anything else you want to add before we start? No? We mentioned it all? We're good? We're good to start? All right. I'm very excited to introduce Marc Tайлером Нобльманом to you. Thank you, Marc, for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, we're so glad you're here with us. And we are very excited to learn about your journey as the author because Marc wrote over 80 books. Can you believe it? Over 80 books.
Wow.
Young readers like you. Yes. And I know. It's amazing. And his books are going to make it to the big screen soon, right? I'm very excited about that journey.
My question is what books he wrote.
All right, so we're going to get to that question. We're definitely going to open the floor for questions, but the first question that we usually ask is how did you get started in this very interesting, intriguing industry that we would love to learn about?
So that's for me, right?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. Well, I was once a kid like all of you, and I loved to read. And I got to the point where I thought, maybe I can actually do this. Maybe I can write a book because I loved reading books. I loved the excitement of a story. So I thought maybe I can be on the other end of that, and I can tell a story that makes other people excited. And the nice thing about being a writer is that anyone can start from anywhere. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be an adult. You don't even need to have a computer. You just need to have a brain, and you were all given one of those at birth for no extra charge. And it does help to have something to write with. So you can use an old-fashioned piece of paper and a pen if you want to. So there's not that many excuses to not write if you have a story in your head. You really have very little excuse. So I just started to do that as a kid. And then I grew up and I still liked it. And so I gave it a shot as an adult, and I ended up publishing books. So that's obviously a shortened version of what happened. But the most important thing is that I started when I was your age.
Wow. That's amazing to hear. That's very inspiring, because we have some young authors here who already have manuscripts, right, Tima?
Wow.
You already have some things written. You showed
Yeah,
it.
I have also some things written.
Ah, there you go. So
That's great.
we have a number of young authors, and I'm sure you're going to be inspired by this story. So what we would love to know is, how do you come up with ideas that you write about? What inspires you to write?
Well, that's another easy answer. And the nice thing is that everyone's already programmed to have ideas. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to, update any drivers or upgrade your system. It's just, again, your brain. So the two main ways that I get ideas are, again, by reading, because when you read, you're connecting with the world. You can read from anywhere. You can't necessarily hop on a plane or a boat or a train and go wherever you want, especially these days during a pandemic, but you can always go wherever you want to go by a book. So the more you know about the world, the more ideas you will get. And I also get ideas in an even easier way than reading, which is literally just being a person, just walking down the street or putting on my socks or brushing my teeth, because you never know when an idea is going to plop into your head. Sometimes they just come unannounced. Now, if that was a person, that might be rude if someone just shows up without being invited, but ideas do that, and it's totally fine. So if I get an idea that I think is good, and I might be, let's say I'm in the middle of running, or I'm having dinner with my family, whatever I'm doing, I don't take a chance. I don't say to myself, okay, that's a good idea, but I'll remember that in an hour when I'm done with this. I don't do that. I stop what I'm doing, even though some people might say it's a little rude, but I'm always polite about it. And I write it down very quickly right away. And then I go back to what I was doing so that I don't miss that idea, because they do go away. It's kind of like, a shooting star or Bigfoot. You might see it for a quick moment and then it goes away. So you really have to capture it while you can. Don't assume that you'll remember it, even if you think it's the best idea you've ever had. So those are my two suggestions. Read and be a person.
Wow, that's amazing advice, especially about the ideas, because they do fly away. There's actually a Russian saying that it's like a bird, you can't catch it. If it's out, it's out.
Right.
So absolutely, That's fantastic. Now.
Oh, so what you're saying is if ideas can sometimes be out of your mind?
Yeah, they sometimes come into your mind and you like it and you think, well, because I like it, it'll stay there, but it actually doesn't. And for me, the biggest example of that is when I'm in bed, when I'm falling asleep or when I'm waking up. A lot of times people get these ideas in the night. So it's really hard in the night to get up and write an idea down. But I've done it. And now with phones, I can speak it, I can record it. It's a little easier. But it doesn't matter how you record it or how you document it, as long as you don't wait, because the idea might go away.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Make sure to watch out for it. If you have good ideas, guys, make sure to write it down.
So you have to because it can fly away at any moment, like guests coming to your brain for a party, an idea, but then they didn't like your party, so they just leave unexpectedly.
Right. Good. That's a good way to put it, Evan. So yeah, whatever it takes. Before people had phones in their pockets, I used to carry a little pad and a pen around with me in my pocket everywhere I went. Now I don't have to do that. So, because everyone has something convenient to, record with usually. But it doesn't matter what method you use, as long as you write it down.
Oh, you carried a pen everywhere you went last time? That's interesting.
Well, this is like 20 years ago. But yeah.
Maybe I'll need it. I have a pretty bad memory.
You can get into the habit then.
Mm-hmm. So, So it's anyways. So what I really want
Vanya,
to
when
say
you
is
are
like,
asking, Vanya, I'm going to interrupt you because when you're asking questions, you have to sit still and you have to look at the person you're talking to.
so it's like reading helps you write, and writing expands your creativity.
Yes, I think so.
Very good, Vanya.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, now that you said something really impressive, you have to get to the question. You can start it with a comment, but you have to get to the question because remember, it's always about the person we speak with.
So, how did you? So, what famous books did you write about?
Which famous books? Have you all heard of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read that. It's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't write that one.
Wrote.
So that was a joke. So I don't know if I've been enabled to share my screen, but if I
You have to press share con.
I think if I make...
Is that possible? Because I can show a slide.
Who's the host? Whoever the host is could allow.
Yeah, I think only the host can share a screen.
The host could allow other people to do it.
Make co-host. Look.
Yeah, co-host.
Yay. See if you can do it now.
Okay.
No, you made me co-host.
I did? Oh, sorry, Vic.
Yeah.
I'm bringing up the slides anyway, so.
Oh my, I could do so much.
Oh my, withdraw. You have been withdrawn the permission. My bad. But thank you for letting me know. Thank you for letting me know. Am I making the right one now? Okay, yes. All right,
still
let's
looking for
try
my,
again.
Okay. I'm just going to find the slide that has that. Let's see here. Nope. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. I'm just looking through presentations. I didn't plan this.
That's all right. While you're doing that, we're going to go over some ways to ask questions, right? So, Vanya, when we ask questions, we wait until the speaker is done, and then we ask a question, right? I know that ideas, we just talked about it, they might fly out, but you keep that idea in mind and wait for the speaker to be done, right? Also, very, very important to be able to multifunction. You're thinking of that idea, but you're still listening. Because what if you missed what the person was talking about, didn't ask the question at the right time, or asked something that they already talked about, right? It's going to be embarrassing. So always make sure that while you are thinking of your question, you have the next question ready, but you're still listening. And as you're listening, you're coming up with more questions, okay? And again, we're not bringing up ourselves. We can say one sentence, but very short. Oh, you know, when I was doing this just like you, I loved it. So can you please tell me more about blah, 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 right? So we can connect, but we never switch the focus on ourselves. Okay? Very, very important. So we're ready for the screen?
I'm ready. Yes, I'll share it. It's just one slide. And then you'll see share screen. Okay, here we go. So here are, do you see the book covers?
Yes.
Great. All right, so these are a few of the books that I have written.
Ooh,
all of them.
My older brothers have read that.
Nice.
Oh, you've read one of them?
I saw one of them, and my older brothers have read. I think they've read Boys of Steel.
Oh, I'm honored. So the top three, and I'm meaning the top row, and then the book in the middle of the bottom row called Fairy Spell, those are all picture books. They're illustrated. So I wrote them, but I did not illustrate them. Somebody who's much more artistic than I did that. And then the two on the bottom corners, Brave Like My Brother and Vanished, those are text only. So Brave Like My Brother is a novel. That means it's fiction. And Vanished is nonfiction, and it's a bunch of short stories about people who disappeared, all true. Wow. And the top left book and the top right book, those are books about superheroes, about Batman and Superman. But it's not fictional. It's the true story behind Batman and Superman. In other words, it's about the people that came up with the idea. So those of you that are asking or curious about how people get ideas, those books talk about how a couple of guys got ideas that became very, very famous and popular. And then the book in the top middle is a comedy. It's a funny book.
Is it a Spanish book?
Well, it has a Spanish flair to it. It's about a Latino myth called the Chupacabra, but it's not in Spanish.
A book. It was
Candelabra.
about chupacabras.
Candelabra.
Always wait for the speaker to finish, and then we can say something. You see, it was great that you shared that your brother has it, because it made Mark feel very happy that his books are being recognized, but we wait to mention this, right? We always let the speaker finish. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
That's okay. Yeah. So for whoever asked, it's not in Spanish, although there are Spanish words in the book, but it's in English. But it has a Latino style to it. And the illustrator is a native Spanish speaker and is Latina, and she really has a beautiful style that fits perfectly with the culture.
Now this is a cue to you to ask questions, right? So you can see that Mark finished, and now you can ask questions.
I was reading a book, and it was about chupacabra, and it was all about they say in Spanish a chupacabra is a goat sucker. Is it really?
Yeah, that's what it means. Do you know what it's referring to?
What?
So the myth says that chupacabras come to farms at night and kill farm animals. And in particular, they like goats, but they don't eat those animals. Instead, they drink the blood. They suck it out like a vampire. That's why it's called goat sucker.
Like a vampire bat.
Right.
Oh.
So my chupacabra, as you could probably guess by looking at him, is not like that. He's not, well, I mean, that's what animals do. They eat other animals sometimes, so there's nothing wrong with that in nature, but he's not that kind of a chupacabra. The goats in the book are afraid of him, but he's actually not so scary.
Okay, so we actually have one of our reporters today is Russian speaking, and we're gonna help her translate it. Okay, so let me just 1 second. I will actually let me just move this. No, I can move this right now. So we have Mira, right? Мира, у тебя какой-то есть вопрос к нашему гостю сегодня?
Да нет, вроде.
Нет пока?
Просто я немного не понимаю.
Наш гость рассказывает сейчас о том, как он начал писать книги. Он пишет детские книги для разных возрастов. И книги, которые ты сейчас видишь на экране, это книги, написанные как раз Марком. Да? И Марк сейчас пришел, чтобы мы поучились, как ему задавать вопросы. У нас обычно уроки на русском идут, но так как сегодня у нас гость англоязычный, то сегодня мы просто на английском ведем урок, поэтому. Хорошо?
Хорошо.
Окей, если какие-то у тебя есть вопросы, что ты хочешь спросить, я могу тебе помочь перевести, хорошо? Okay. All right, awesome. So, do we have more questions that we're ready to ask? Anybody has? Okay. So, Mark.
Yes.
How do you get yourself to sit down and write when there's so many fun things that you can also do?
Yes.
But you know that, like you said, the idea can fly away.
Well, luckily, writing for me is one of the most fun things. So I don't have to feel like I'm missing out on something fun. But yeah, life is busy, especially when you're in school and you have friends and you have after school activities, even if they're virtual. So I get it, it's tough. But like everything else in life, if it's important to you, you've got to prioritize. There's no other way to do it. So, there are times where, my kids might say, they're older now, but when they were younger, they might say, you want to come outside and play or do something together? And I would do everything I could to say yes. Of course, I couldn't say yes every time, but I did as much as possible because I was making that the priority right then, even though I had work to do, or maybe I was tired and wanted to take a nap, or maybe I wanted to eat a carrot. I don't know, but I had to make priorities. So you sometimes have to stop something that you like doing and then do something else that you like doing. And you just have to trade off it for that moment. So I don't really tolerate excuses in myself. If I need to do something, I have to do it. I don't let myself off the hook. I just have to do it. It's like when you guys have a chore in the house, maybe your parents say you have to take out the trash. And that might be annoying. Maybe it's freezing cold out and you don't want to go outside right then. But my philosophy is, well, I'm going to have to do it eventually. So I might as well just do it now and get it over with. And then I can move on to the fun stuff. So
yeah. Very good life lesson. Did you hear that, guys? Priorities. Do you know the word priority? Yeah. Not all. Some know. Okay, some know, some don't. Timo, do you want to explain what priority means?
Oh, I mean, I really don't know what it means, but I did hear it before.
Okay, so priority means something that is more important than other things. Okay, so in life, there are priorities. There are many things that you want to do and need to do, but you can't do that all at the same time, right? You can't write a book while taking out trash and doing the dishes. So you have to pick your priority. Sometimes it's very difficult to do that, but it's very important to learn that, okay? And this is what Mark was talking about. Now, I know Venya had a question. Venya had his hand up, yes?
I was wondering.
Yes.
How much ideas do you get around like in one day, maybe 2 days? How much ideas? Do you get a lot of them, so it's hard to all write down, or you get very little of them, so it's really easy to write all of them down?
It's a really good question. I'm just going to correct you. When you can count something, you use many. Much is used when it's something that is hard to count, like how much water, right? Okay, but ideas we can count. So it's how many ideas. But the question was wonderful. Thank you, Venya.
yeah, Venya, that's a good question. So the answer is the same for every writer that's ever lived, which is that it's different every day. I've never had a day where I have so many ideas that I can't keep up and write them down. I mean, to be honest, most days, if I have one idea, that's a lot. You know, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, so I have a long list just from being older than you. But too many ideas to even ever get to. I won't even get to write all these books in my life, even if I wrote a book every month for the rest of my life. So I have enough ideas already, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. You can even go a week or a month or longer without an idea. I don't think there's any, worry that you should worry about that. The only thing I really stress is to write them down when they come, because that's what you're really going to be frustrated with if you don't do. You're not going to have a problem with having too many, but you could have a problem if you don't have enough. So that's why you got to write them down when you get them.
Thank you. Very
You're
important.
welcome.
And Tima, you have a lot of great movie ideas, right? So make sure that as they come up, you put them down. Okay. Vanya, you have a question, right?
So you mean like you get stressed out about the idea comes into your head and you have to like write it down as quick as possible?
I mean, I would recommend it, but not if it's going to endanger anyone's life. So if you're driving a car, just keep driving. That's not so. You guys have your license already, right?
Yeah.
You
No.
can drive a car. No, nobody? Are you all in Pennsylvania?
No, I can drive a car.
Oh, you're in Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
No,
What's
I'm
the-
really
what-
close to Pennsylvania. I'm in New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey. Okay. So what's the driving age in New Jersey?
I'm in San Antonio.
I don't know.
I'm in San
Okay.
Antonio.
Well, that's okay.
Like in
Nothing to be
South
ashamed of.
Texas.
You'll get there. So to answer your question, Evan, as soon as possible, but obviously if there's something more important going on, if you're in the middle of surgery, maybe you can wait a little bit, for example.
Yeah. So yeah, like, hey, don't text while driving.
Never.
Don't risk your own life to do your job.
Going back to priorities, right? So
Right.
getting somewhere safely is a priority.
Yeah.
And then putting down ideas later, very important. But health is more important, right? So
Right.
priorities.
Health comes first.
Yes, absolutely, in everything. Guys, who wants to ask a question? Who wants to practice? Girls, you want to practice? No, not yet? A little later, maybe? Okay. All right, who wants to practice? Yegor, you have not asked questions yet today, and I know you can ask amazing questions. Have you thought of one? Okay. You got it, buddy. I know you got it. You want to ask next? You want someone to ask now and then you can ask next one? Yeah? Okay, so prepare a question. Make sure you prepare one. Okay, anybody wants? Okay, Vanya.
So, how much do you write each day?
These are all great questions. And the answer to that is it differs. It depends on the day. Some days it could be for several hours. Some days it could be not at all. Because as a writer, I have to do other things besides write. Sometimes I have to research, which means I have to read a lot and learn. Sometimes I have to speak. Before there was a pandemic, I would go travel. I would speak in schools to kids just like you all over the world. I was in India in February, right before lockdown. I've been to Texas many times. So that took a lot of time, but now I'm home all the time like everyone else, so I have more time to write. So nowadays it could be more time than usual, but there's no fixed time. There are writers though that have a schedule. They are very disciplined about that. They say every day from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. I write, and then I eat lunch, and then I write for 2 more hours in the afternoon, and then I'm done. And that works for them, but that's not how I work. So for you, you'll have to just decide what works for you. Maybe you want to be one that has a specific time that you write every day, or maybe you'll say, you know what, I'm going to write whenever I feel it.
So it's like a random time for you, like depends what you're doing?
Yeah, depends. Depends on other things that I have to do.
So now it's a question from Vine. We need to give others an opportunity to ask also, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now it's Ayla's time. Ayla, right? Am I saying it right? Okay, so it's Ayla's turn.
How long have you been an author?
Sorry?
How long have you been an author?
How long? Well, there are 2 answers to that, Ayla. The first answer is I've been an author since I was born because I believe that this is what I was put here to do. I can't do much else. I can't fix cars. I can't make you a 4-course meal. I can't sing opera. So I'm pretty limited. So writing is by process of elimination. That's my job. So I think that was my programming when I was born. And I think I learned it pretty early when I was a kid that I liked that. But you probably mean, when did I become a professional author? When did I start publishing books? And the answer to that is pretty soon after I graduated from college. I was about 24 years old.
Mm-hmm. Igor, are you ready for your question? Go ahead. We can't hear you. You're on mute, honey. Oh, no, you're not, but we just can't hear you for some reason. What's going on?
Oh,
I can't.
oh, here.
There you go.
Do you actually enjoy your job?
No, we don't ask questions like that. You first say something great, right? Because this is the first time you're asking the question. So, and then remember how we learned? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You wrote so many great books, or it was so interesting listening to your path. Start with a compliment.
I think you're really talented because you write books, and I think that's pretty hard.
Now say it with enthusiasm. And don't shake on the chair.
I think you're talented because you write books, and I think that's really talented and hard.
Thank you, Igor.
And now you get to the question.
Do you actually enjoy your job?
Well, thank you for the nice thing you said, and thank you for the question. And by the way, that chair is pretty beast. Do kids still say beast? My son has a chair like that. If I say beast to him, he gets embarrassed. So maybe I just embarrassed you, but it's a pretty cool chair. I'm guessing you're a gamer, right? Yeah, I think that comes with being
70%.
a gamer. 70%? Yeah, okay. So you asked me if I like my job, right? And my answer is probably the most important thing I will say to you all today, which is that I love it, and that you're all young enough to find the same feeling. When you get older and you need to have a job, my suggestion is to find one that you love. It's not always easy, but it's really important because you spend a lot of time at work. Most people spend a minimum 8 hours a day, minimum 5 days a week. And for a lot of people, it's a lot more than that. So why would you ever choose a job that you don't like when you have to spend so much time doing it? So my suggestion is you should all make a mental note now or write it down that you should start to, you know, find your way. Whatever your interests are, that could be your job one day. You could be a professional gamer. You could be a game designer. You could be a game chair designer. Or you probably have other interests that I can't see just by looking at your room there. So whatever your passions are, if you can find a way to turn that into a job, you will be much happier, and so will everyone around you. So the short answer is yes, I love my job. And the long answer is I hope you all find a way to find a job that you love too when you get to that point.
I love it. That was great. Reflects in my heart with my philosophy. That's fantastic. So we have Venya, and then we're going to have Vanya.
You wrote so many books that you must spend a lot of time, but how often do you
We don't use
write down pages to a book?
Like is same thing as we don't use like in questions. How often do you
write books?
How often do you get them published?
No,
because we did ask how often Mark writes.
Like maybe a page or something like that to a book.
Oh, okay.
Oh, how much at a time?
Like breakfast, lunch, and like dinner.
Okay.
That often, or do you do it like weekly, or do you do it like daily?
Schedule. What is your writing schedule?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. That's similar to what I said before. It really varies, but I can say this, that once I start a book, I get very excited and I tend to work longer hours to write it because I like that feeling. And I also want to try to complete it as soon as possible. So I don't have a specific answer. I can't give you in terms of hours or so on. But usually I could write at least a couple of pages in any session that I'm writing, whatever I'm working on, I can write at least a couple of pages at once. Some writers write many, many, many pages at once. But as you all know from school, you don't turn in the first draft, right?
No.
No. You've never read a first draft in book form. They never get published because they have to be worked on. So, I have to work on it again and again. So it does take some time, but I'm sorry, Vanya, I don't have a specific number of hours, but that's the general idea of how it looks.
Vanya?
So before I start my question, I want to say a comment about the previous question. So at our school, if we do it like write an essay, we usually first do a brainstorming, which is like a bubble sheet. You have to write down your ideas. Then you do the rough draft, and then you revise and edit.
That's what writers do. That's what professional writers do.
Final draft.
So you need to now from this, you need to get to the question. So the question would be, is this the format that you also follow? Because otherwise you just share the story about yourself, and this is what we never do in interviewing, right? So if you wanted to share that, then you have to lead into the question.
So you write down your ideas. Yes. Write down your story, then revise and edit and read through your story to find it interesting and if there are any corrections to be made. And then final draft is when you also have to make it better, add more details to it or sensory descriptions.
Question.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, so now my question. I heard that you started writing and started being interested in writing from a very young age. Since when did you start being interested in writing?
Well, I can't give you a date. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, I would say probably maybe third grade is when I remember writing for fun for the first time, but it might have been earlier. I just don't remember for sure. I was young.
Vanya, now, you either, what you did right now with the story, while it's a great story, but right now, we're not just having a pleasant conversation, which is wonderful, and I'm always happy to do that with you guys, but right now we're practicing our interviewing questions, right? Our interviewing skills. So you either do a short story like that and lead it right to, next to the question that connects to it, or we can share that story, okay? Because right now we're practicing interviewing and we never switch focus on us, right? We're reporters. It's not about us. It's about our guest. Talking about our guest, do we still have time with you?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
I want to make sure we're not,
Thank you.
going beyond. Okay. So we haven't heard from Tima in a while, and Tima is actually planning to have writing as his dream job, writing and directing. So Tima, I'd love to hear some questions from you.
All right. So I've heard that you wrote over 80 books. That's a lot. I've wrote actually 70 essays in total. I mean, probably not that much. Though, my question is, how long did it take you to write all these books?
Well, I started in 1995, and I'm writing a book as we speak, 2020. So how many years is that? I've been doing this my whole adult life. I've been writing. But within that, I can give you a tighter snapshot. I think probably the quickest I've written a book is in a day. That would have been a book for a very young audience, it's like first or second grade, very short book, very little research required. Whereas on other books, it's taken more than a year. Not every day, all day, but it was my main focus for at least a year, including research. So it really varies. I've heard of authors that take 10 years to write books. But again, that's not the only thing they're doing. It's just a main project, but the point is everyone has a different pace, and you shouldn't be too worried about that unless you're on a deadline. But for you guys as young people, the reason that you have assignments in school that have due dates is so that you get used to that idea of having to do something with limited time, because you probably will have a job that will expect you to do that. But for your own personal writing, that's the nice thing about it. You can sit down and start a book today and finish it whenever you want. That's creative. That's the arts.
It's inspiring. All right, so we haven't heard from Ayla for some time. Ayla, do you have a question for us? Not yet? Are you going to prepare a question? Okay. Igor, do you have a question for us? Not for us, actually, for Mark. Do you have one? We can't hear you again. Do you want us to get back to you after the next question? Yeah? Okay, so Igor, you're next. After that, it's Ayla. And right now we have Venya with his hand raised. So Venya, it's your turn.
You were talking about before that you don't illustrate your books. You just like write them. So do you work side by side with your illustrator?
Good question.
Another great question.
Go to the illustrator's house and like give them the draft you have and stuff like that.
Another great question. Well,
so
this might surprise you.
Before you answer, Mark, I just want to make a few corrections. So Venya, but when you ask questions, and not just Venya, anybody, when you ask questions, don't assume the answer in your question. So by saying, oh, you just go to Illustrator's house and do that, you're assuming an answer, right? So we just do the open-ended question, and you can ask, what is your, you told us you don't illustrate your own books. What is your process of working with the illustrator? That gives us that open end we were talking about, okay? All right, Vin? Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Mike.
Oh, that's okay. You're getting really great advice today, all of you. I'm learning some things too. So I have worked with, I don't know how many illustrators, and I've been to none of their houses. Never, ever. And in some cases, I haven't even met them in person. And in some cases, I haven't even heard their voice on the phone. So writers and artists that make books for kids very often don't meet. So one of my artists lives in Canada. I live in Maryland, near Washington, D.C. The illustrator of the Chupacabra book lives in San Francisco on the other side of the country. So I've never met her in person either.
Pacific.
And yeah, it's a little crazy. So we do it all remote, just like we're all living now. So I'll write my book and I'll send it to the editor, which is the person at the publishing company who helps us make it better, kind of like a teacher does with your writing. And then the editor is the one who finds the illustrator. I can make suggestions, people that I think would be good, but I don't get to choose. I'm not the boss. And then once we have an artist, we communicate usually through the editor. So if let's say the artist draws a picture of the Chupacabra and I think that it looks too purple, I wouldn't email or call the artist directly. I would email my editor and say, would you mind to ask Anna, which was the name of the artist, if she could show us a version of the Chupacabra who's not as purple, a little less purple. And the editor might say, sure, or the editor might say, actually, you know what, that's not something that we really have time for. That's not as important as other changes. So no, but that's how it usually works. So the short answer is, Vanya, no, we don't usually sit down together, although some do. If they're, for example, some married couples create books together. So obviously they can sit down together. Sometimes you live in the same city or you're an old friend, so you can do that, but usually we don't, which sounds strange, I'm sure, but that's how it works.
Thank you, Mark. And by the way, make sure that every time you get the answer that you want, you make a very, very small comment, either comment of gratitude or transition to the next question, okay? So in this case, because you're not transitioning and we're switching, make sure that you show your gratitude for the answer, okay? Yegor, you were next. Yegor, we can't hear you, hon. Nope, still can't hear you. You're not on mute though.
Right?
Oh, now we can hear you.
Yeah, in what year have you found out that you want to be an author, or what time did you find out you enjoy being an author? We
already asked that, so we went over in that. So try to come up with another one. And that is something that I was talking about. We have to listen. Not just think of a question. We have to listen. So think about it. Okay, take another 5 minutes to think about it. Remember the questions that were asked. Okay, very important. And we're gonna jump to Ayla, and then we're gonna go back to you. Okay. Ayla, we need to start with something. We were talking about it. You weren't at our previous lessons, but just so you know. So when we start a question, we first say something nice or connected to something that the person said before, and then we transition into the question. Okay?
Like, can I have a little bit more to think about it? Like
Sure. So I think Vanya had his hand up, right? Vanya, you had your hand up? Okay, so we're gonna go to Vanya, then it's gonna be Yegor, and then it's gonna be Ayla, okay?
It's just a comment.
Is that a comment that is relevant to our journalism journey, or is that just a general comment to share?
Kind of like to our journey, but unfortunately, the idea flew out of my head.
Oh, that's when you need to write it down.
Yeah,
exactly
see?
What Mark said.
You just proved it.
Uh-oh. So it's very important. You know, when you look at journalists, when there is a full room of journalists, they all have their notepads, right? Because they have to put down their idea because it's going to fly out. Their questions are going to fly out and gone. Okay, good. I see the pen in your hand. Perfect. Vanya, do you have more questions?
No.
Okay. So because we need to give a little bit time to Yegor and Ayla, we're going to jump to the question about research. So you've mentioned that you do a lot of research for your books. Can you please tell us about your researching process?
Yes. So raise your hand if you remember a game called hide and seek. Maybe you don't have to remember it. Maybe you played it today. I don't know. So research is hide and seek. with the entire world, basically. You're not just looking for your friends in the backyard. You're looking for facts or information that could be anywhere. It could be in a book right down the street in your local library. It could be in one newspaper article from 100 years ago that most people haven't seen in 100 years. So it's exciting. It's like a treasure hunt. It's like going on the beach and digging through the sand, and maybe you'll find a pirate's chest with gold in it, and maybe not. But the search is still exciting even if you don't find something. That's research. I am not born with all these stories in my head. I have to learn about them first before I can write about them. So for example, I wrote that book about the guy who created Batman. I didn't know a thing about that guy. I never met him. I didn't know anything about him. So I had to read as much as I could find about him, and I took my notes. And then when I was done, I made special highlights for the facts about him that I thought kids would think are the most interesting. Not what I think is the most interesting, but what I think you would think, because you're my audience. So I had all these facts swirling around. It's like making a stir fry with vegetables. You have to pick whatever ingredients you think will make it the best. I had to pick whichever facts and whichever stories that I thought you would love the most, and then figure out a way to put it all together. So the research part for some kids, I think, I've seen, they think it's boring. But I think they just haven't really gotten a taste for it yet. Because actually, for a lot of writers, it's one of the most exciting parts of the job. I found out things that nobody, except maybe 5 people in the entire world, knew. And that's pretty exciting. If you're one of 6 people in the world that know something, that's the kind of thrill you can get from good research. And basically, you're already trained to do it because you already know how to read and you already know how to play hide and seek. So you put those 2 skills together, that's research.
Wow, impressive. And a lot of work, but very impressive.
Yes, it's a lot of work. And again, there are going to be days, some of you asked how long things take. You could say, okay, I'm going to research. I want to find out who invented the skateboard. So you might spend a whole day looking for information about whoever that person was and not really find good information. That doesn't mean you're done. And that doesn't mean there is no information. It just means you didn't find the right information yet. It's like if someone said to you, okay, in my backyard, I hid 1 gold coin. That gold coin will pay for college. And you go out there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you dig for a couple hours and it gets dark. Are you done if you don't find it? Of course not. You'll come back as many times as it takes to find that gold coin. So that's how I feel. I'm going to keep looking until I find what I think is interesting enough information for you, even if it takes months.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. That's dedication. Now, we have a question from Mira. Mira, тебе помочь по-русски спросить? Перевести или ты спросишь по-английски?
And you read book alone or with someone's help?
Ah, okay. Thank you, Mira.
Mira.
How do you say thank you in Russian, Mira?
Спасибо.
Spasiba?
Yes.
I got that sort of right?
Good.
Okay. So thank you. I usually write by myself, but some writers work in teams or at least in pairs, 2 people, but I don't do that. I'm a lone wolf.
Good, thank you. Now we have Yegor ready with the question. Go ahead, Yegor. Make sure your sound is on.
Yeah. Okay.
Comment or compliment, then question, remember?
Yeah. Wow.
It's okay. Don't worry. You got it. I know I get nervous sometimes and forget my questions. I just had that like literally 2 days ago. When I missed the lesson with you guys, I had an interview with a famous star who I really, really admire, one of my favorite actors. And he gives a whole speech on how you have to be over-prepared. And he accentuates that. He's like, over-prepared. Oh, like you have to wash dishes and know your lines. And I'm like, wow. And then it's like, my time for the question, and I forget my question. I'm like, this is the worst time to forget your question after a person tells you to be over prepared, and we both start laughing. So it happens. It's okay. It happens to everybody. So don't worry about it. Did you remember it yet or not? No? Okay. Remember it. We're going to get back to you. And Ayla, your turn for the question.
I mean, if I was an author, I think it would be pretty hard. So is it hard for you to be an author?
Well, it can be hard, Ayla, but that's part of what makes it worthwhile. Because if something's too easy, what happens?
It's too easy. And
how do you feel if something's too easy?
You don't want to do it.
Yeah, you're bored.
Harder things.
Yeah, you're bored. So if my job was boring, if it was too easy, it would be boring and I would be unhappy. So it's actually a good thing that it's hard at times because that keeps you alive. It keeps you on your feet, you know, it pushes you to keep doing more and do better. So it is hard and it can be frustrating, but that's any job. You know, you could have the perfect job for you. You could love it to death. There's still going to be days where you're going to be frustrated. That's just part of being human. So yes, it is hard at times, not so hard that I won't ever do it, you know, that I don't want to stop, that I want to stop doing it. But it's a good kind of hard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Igor, did you remember it? Yeah? Go ahead.
Of it. Half of it.
It's okay. Go ahead, hon.
So
Hands away from the face. Go ahead. That's okay. Even if you don't ask it correctly, I'm going to help you. Just get to the concept and I'm going to help you phrase it.
I think being an author is hard.
Okay.
I can't believe you chose to be an author. That job looks really hard and challenging. Have you ever stolen an idea while writing a book, or somebody stole your idea?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's a very good question.
Yeah. A lot of writers worry about that.
Yeah.
So I have never stolen an idea. I would never do that, at least not consciously. Sometimes writers will write something that they got from somewhere else and they don't realize, because we all do research. We read a lot. You might write something down and realize that actually sounds familiar. And then you realize, oh, that's actually pretty close to a line that was in that book that I read. So you have to make sure to catch those mistakes, because that could be bad if you're, you know, if you're caught with, basically it's called plagiarism, writing someone else's words, even if you do it by accident. Now, as far as someone stealing my idea, I don't think so. There have been no big incidents like that. I hope not, but I haven't seen anything like that.
So 3 more questions, and we have Mira, who hasn't gotten a chance to ask many questions yet. So let's go with Mira.
Why did you choose to be a writer?
Thank you. Why did I choose to be a writer? Well, I talked a bit about this. I think it chose me. I think that's just how I was built. That I liked stories, not just reading them, but writing them. So, and also, like I said before, it's the kind of thing that anybody can do from home with no barrier. You know, if you want to write a story, you can be anyone and sit down and write a story. It's different with a lot of other art. If you want to be in a rock band, you can do it, but you need instruments, which cost money. You need other people usually to be in the band. You sometimes need to have a space to rehearse. Maybe you don't have a big empty garage or something. You live in an apartment in the city. You don't have a space. You sometimes need to go play live for people to practice. You need a lot to be a musician, and you need a lot to be a writer too, but everything you need is in your brain. So you can do it from home.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now we have another question from Venya.
You said how you try to figure out not what you think is good, but like what like kids and other people might think is good about the book and like what's interesting. So how do you know what's interesting for other people?
Yeah, that's the question, Venya.
Question.
Yeah, I don't, but I have to take a guess. I mean, I've been around kids a lot, so I do have some experience knowing what kids like, but every kid is different, right? So I can't know what every kid will like, but I have a certain sense. For example, if I'm writing a book about the guy who created Batman, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the financial dealings of the company that publishes Batman. I don't think a lot of kids will care about that. You know, the accountants and how they earn the money, how they spend the money, the budget, the profit and loss statement. You're not going to care so much about that most likely. So I focus on the stuff that I think is more kid appropriate. You know, maybe a story about how Bill Finger, the writer, used to stay up really late. That's how he liked to write. And sometimes when he wanted a snack in the middle of the night, he would make himself a bowl of chicken soup. That's the kind of thing I think some kids would think is interesting in a quiet way, better than a profit and loss statement.
All right. So
why don't we have 2 more hands raised.
Yeah.
I can do those last 2 questions.
Okay, because I was having a hard time choosing, so
Yeah.
I was gonna do the eeny, money, more, whatever, however that thing goes. But
Right.
All right, perfect. So we have 2 last questions from Tima and from Mira. So we're gonna start with Mira was just asking recently, so we'll start with Tima and then go to Mira, and then we're done.
All right.
All right, Tima.
So if you wrote 80 books, which one of them, what was the book you wrote first?
Well, you've never heard of it. I didn't show it to you either. It was called the Felix Activity Book. It was a book of puzzles and games.
In 1995, right?
I wrote it in 1995. Good memory. Yeah. And then it was published the next year.
Wow. Good job. Good job. That was good listening.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of you. Good listening.
Yeah.
Now we have Mira. Mira, we can't hear you.
Is it easy to be a writer?
Well, we talked a bit about that, Mira, but I can understand maybe you didn't get all of that. So it is not easy, but that makes it better. If it was easy, I would be bored and I would be crying and I would be very upset because I don't like to be bored. So it's good that it's a bit hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was fantastic, Mark. We've learned so much. Thank you on behalf of everybody. I think a round of applause for Mark, all of us. Yay! Thank you, thank you. Thank you for all your amazing work, for all your wonderful books, and we look forward to reading them. And we are really grateful to you for sharing your journey with us. And we're truly inspired. And some of us are going to go and start writing as soon as we hang up.
I hope so.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It was nice to meet everyone.